Hey everybody, and welcome to this income tax monopoly resource walkthrough video. We're going to be talking about graduated tax today. And this is different from the flat tax version of the Monopoly game that is also available. If you want to check that one out, see my other video about how to do the flat tax return. We're just going to do a quick walkthrough of what a graduated tax return in the Monopoly game would look like using the FI Educator resource, Income Tax Monopoly. All right, so looking at our sheet, I'm going to switch over to a student sheet from a recent game, and we can go through a tax calculation for her. All of our tracker sheet has been filled out for the game. So we have our income column, we have our expense column, goes all the way over to the second side. So this game lasted about 75 minutes. And that's all you're going to be doing during the game, is just logging your income and expenses and then tracking your balance. And your balance should always match how much cash you have. So just check yourself a couple of times throughout the game to make sure you do have the right amount of cash, or you have the right amount of money written down, I should say. So when you get to the end of the game, or maybe you're at the halfway point of the game, there's a couple ways your teacher might choose to do this. You're going to have to do an income tax calculation. And it could be every time you go around the board and hit go, or it could be every second time around the board. It could be every 15, 20, 30 minutes, or it could just be one time at the end of the game. It just depends on what your class is doing. But this one student has gotten to the end of the game, so we're going to do an income tax calculation for all of her actions throughout the game. You're going to need your income tax filing form, and this is the one that it's a longer form as opposed to a half form, which is for the flat tax one. And it's got places for name, profit, expenses, income, a little calculation worksheet, amount you owe, and then you'll sign at the end. You also need your information sheet. So this is our brackets. And that just means that there are brackets. You fill up the brackets with the amount of money, and the bracket is taxed at a certain percentage. And then you add all of them together to get your total tax amount. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on our form, and we'll just start going through it one line at a time. So put your name in there. Rounds the board completed. If you're doing this based on how many times you go around the board, that's something you can fill in there. So I'll just say rounds the board completed 4. And I'm sure there might have been more than that. If you're playing a time game, how long did you play for before you did your tax return? So this student was playing for 75 minutes. Income. All you're going to do here is add up all of the numbers on the income column. So how much money did you bring in during your game? So we've got all these numbers added up. I've already done this off screen. This is 3249. You would just be putting in your calculator and adding them together. Expenses, same idea. All of your expenses added together. So the student had 1720 in expenses. Profit, insert the number from box 3. So we need to figure out our profit. We're going to subtract these two. So subtract line 2 from line 1, and we get 1529. If you get a negative number or it's 0, you're just going to put 0 in here. You don't owe any taxes. So if it's negative or 0, you spent more than you brought in, it's going to be 0. But usually most of us are going to have that $1,500 we started with plus what happens during the game. So we're going to have positive money unless you have gone bankrupt during the game. All right, taxable income is going to be our profit. So 1529. The standard deduction, we look at our tax information sheet, and we can see the standard deduction up here is $10. And then, so we have 1529 minus $10 is 1519. And this is going to be our taxable income. So for the federal government or the state, this is the money that they are actually going to calculate taxes based on. The standard deduction is what you get to make without paying taxes. 10% bracket. Taxable income, so this is that number coming down here, 1519. This bracket holds $100. So anything from your first 0 to $100 is going to go in that first bracket. We have more than $100, so we are going to fill up this bracket completely. It only holds a max of 100. We have more than that, so we're going to fill it up entirely. And then 100 times 0.10, which is 10%, this is a 10% bracket, is $10. So you owe $10 of tax in the first bracket. If you're doing more frequent income tax calculations, this may be as far as you go, that you're only filling up the first bracket because maybe every round of the board or 2 rounds, you're only making a couple $100, so there's not really a ton of profit going on. Because this is an end of the game calculation, we have a higher profit number, which kind of makes it a bit more fun. We get to go through all the brackets. The amount allocated, $100, has been taxed, so we can remove that from our taxable income. So subtract those, we get 1419. The second bracket is a 15% bracket. This one holds $100. 1419 is bigger than 100, so we're going to fill this one up once again. And that $100 times 15% is $15. So if your number is bigger than 100, you've got the same thing as me so far in your calculation. Subtract out that $100 again that has been taxed. 1419 minus 100 is 1319. And 1319, this bracket holds $300. It's a 20% bracket, so we're going to tax this at 20%. $300 is bigger than the previous ones, but still not bigger than what I have left. So I'm going to put $300 in here. 300 times 0.20 is $60. So this one is a higher amount of tax than the previous ones. So it's 20% and it holds more money. Subtract my $300 that I've taxed already. So that means I have 1019 left over. Now this is what we would call the highest bracket in our tax system. There's no limit to how much can go in here. So anything over $500, so a $501 and more is going to go into this bracket. So the full amount is going to go in 1019, and this gets taxed at 25%. That's going to be $254.75. Now, when you're doing these, you want to round to the nearest whole number because in your Monopoly money, you don't have change. So instead of $254.75, I'm just going to round that for my own records. That's $255 even. Total taxes owed, add 10, 15, 60, and 255, and we get $339.75, so that'd be $340. Amount you owe, use the worksheet above to calculate the total tax, so this is just that $340 coming in, $340. Once you're done, sign it off. If you are still playing, come back to your ledger sheet. So say you're doing this halfway through the game or after a couple of rounds. On the income side, just write tax. Kind of give us a little shading so we know this is a very obvious one. And we paid $340 in tax, and we're going to subtract our balance to show that. So we've got 1709 minus 340. We have 1369. And I just did this for cash. I didn't do this for total net worth. So this student, if we were doing on total net worth, would have had to sell all their properties, liquidate houses, any money owed would have been calculated in there, and we would have had to figure out, okay, how much is the total profit now, and then done our tax based on that. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, please send me an email, thefieducator@gmail.com. I hope you enjoy playing.